Hello, welcome back. So, further to the Dungeon Raider game, conversion it into C, targeting the Apple II, here is a quick overview of how I'm handling the maps. So, the maps are compiled into these level files and they're bundled together with 5 maps per file. So, because there's on some of these older machines, there's a limit to the number of files you can have. With 100 levels, 100 files, that's more than a lot of file systems can handle. So what I'm doing is bundling them together in batches. Here's the file. Here's the levels themselves. So you can see there's quite a few there. I've got up to about 75, I think. So I've almost reached 100. So here's an example map. So I've been using it for testing, and this is then converted and bundled together into here, which is fine. And yeah, so you've got the player start position and various other bits and pieces. Now, interesting thing is, with 100 files, it's very easy to have errors. So I've written a mapping program in Python. So what that does is it will validate the maps. So it takes some input values here. So it takes the input map name. So that's all the maps together, i.e. this file here. Then the output directory where it's going to dump these, and the naming convention that you want for the files. So what it does is, as it goes to processing the files, it looks for the various headers, extracts the map name, does some general processing on that, and once it's found a map to process, it will then go through removing some of the formatting of those and pushing it into the batch, and so on and so on. So then what it does, it then will check the map over. So this is where it gets a little bit more useful. So it will do various checks. It checks that there is a start position, checks there's an exit, checks that there's enough keys to match the number of doors, there's too many non-player characters, whether the ratio of food and NPCs is too low. It checks whether there are matching switches and transporters. So here's a key of what's happening. So when you hit that transport pad, you end up with that transport pad. When you hit the trap, then the star is the trap. Then it will, whatever. These are fairly straightforward. That's handled within the game code. These ones are required for it to operate correctly. So, for example, if you click the plus switch, then the characters 0 to 3 will be superimposed over the map. So it will say, for example, 0 on the map. So when you hit the tile with a plus on it, it would have recorded where that was and replace it on the map with that. So when you hit the switch, that block, that bars your entry, will be changed into a dot, which means you can walk through it. So it's a trigger where you can modify parts of the map as you go, which is quite cool. So what this does is it goes away and checks that. So if we then run this, so I'll put it in a convenient little batch file. So it's going to run Python. That's the .py file. That's the input, whatever. So if we then run it, then it's gone and checked all the maps so far. So if we then go to the top, so the first one, entrance, is telling me that there's a low food to NPC ratio. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at that. So it will grab the level names, and then you can easily go off and do it. So Armory, which is one of the later levels, has issues. There are 7 non-player characters, so it reckons there's no food on that level at all. Also, there's a missing switch, and there's no transporter that matches it. So if you landed on that space, you wouldn't go anywhere because it doesn't know how to get to it. In actual fact, there are some little bugs in the code, or some, not so much bugs, but scenarios where exceptions are not handled nicely if the data is invalid. So what actually happens is you end up in a void and you die if there's no matching transporter, which is interesting. I didn't expect that dynamic, but that's what happens when you're writing a piece of code like this. You end up with scenarios you didn't quite expect, and then you decide whether you want to say it's a bug or a feature. Might be a feature, I don't know. Anyway, the important thing is this program is telling me what is happening with all of these levels, and do I need to go and do anything about it? Now I can decide whether actually, if it's a later level, these are very early, of course, it's the first level. It's telling me it's a bit hard. Okay, fine, but it might be that, but that's okay. I might want it to be difficult. Other ones like this in Vault, there's no exit, so I go to it. There's no way out. So anyway, this is a quick overview of the tooling that I'm building to help me develop these maps. With 100 levels, it's quickly becomes difficult to validate it all. In future releases, I do want to look at a pathfinding algorithm so I can check whether there is actually a valid path through the map without dying. If you step into a void, so for here, for example, if you got your character, if that character then went up one, that's a void, you would die instantly. So this is not going to be the final map. I've used this map 1 for testing a lot of things, so that's why there's lots of little switches and transporters and goodness knows what, so I can do it. That won't be the final, the final, how can I put it? That won't be the final entry level. Anyway, you know what I mean. So yeah, that's just a quick overview, and I'll keep you posted for more. Cheers.